This is Gone Racin, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
Welcome into Gone Racin. Mr. Motley, new digs here for us on Gone Racin.
Where are we? Are we lost here?
We're at the fabulous Circa Casino, right downtown. Actually, really cool about the Circa is this is the site of one of my grandfather's first casinos. The Las Vegas Club was this site, and the Stevens brothers built this beautiful, the most beautiful casino downtown in the history of downtown. And we are at the studio at Circa now. So this is our digs for the rest of the year, I hope. And we're here. Nobody's going. You don't see faces in the back of the window anymore. Now you just have the board with the odds.
They let us come downtown. I don't know.
It's close for me.
We're downtown now.
I still live 5 minutes from here, so this is perfect for me.
Yeah, it's no big deal for me either. So,
but what we talk about on the show, of course, is our odds. And last week we had Darlington, the first round of the playoff, and man, Motley, a guy that always does well there, never finishes well there, but does well there. Kyle Larson finally gets off the schneid, and him and Tyler Reddick, the two guys that we always talk about being the guys that love the high line, the guys that that's their forte. Finally, he gets the W here.
Well, and I was going to give you credit because you called it last week. You said, hey, this track sets up perfectly for Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick.
1-2.
And other than Denny Hamlin, who was the best car most of the day until they had an issue with whether a tire was loose or not. But, and let's talk about Denny for a minute. I mean, he was the best car.
Yes.
But as a driver, no matter what the crew said, he had an issue.
And look, I'm I'm probably always more critical of Denny than some. But Denny Hamlin, you are a driver. If I tell you that there is something wrong, there's something wrong. I don't care if that wheel wasn't loose. I don't care if they said that wheel didn't, it doesn't matter what they said. Something was wrong with that wheel or tire. Something was there because as a driver, we feel those things, whether that tire had a bad sidewall that was going to come unravel, whether that tire was going to do something. It absolutely had a problem. Denny is the driver. Denny is the guy that he ran a couple laps and went, there's something wrong. I got to get out. So I believe in Denny. He did dominate. 177 laps he led. Absolutely amazing day. Won both stages. Still a good points day for the playoffs because he got so many stage points and 2 more playoff points so that carry over. He's still okay.
And heading to a racetrack that he's already won at once already this year. So I don't think Denny's got anything to worry about.
He'll be okay. But Kyle Larson, absolutely, him and Tyler Reddick, the next 2 guys that led the most laps, absolutely amazing job they both did. And then Chris Buescher still come home top 3, but Larson did a phenomenal job at the end holding off Tyler.
And I think we would both agree that for Kyle Larson, it's been a rather pedestrian season for Kyle Larson.
By his standards, yeah.
But now you need to talk about momentum and
who runs all of Hendrick Motorsports competition office now?
Chad Knaus, right?
And what was Chad Knaus famous for with Jimmy Johnson?
Well,
great start to a season.
And
middle summers were always kind of everybody. Jimmy's not looking good. Jimmy, and then what happens when the playoffs start? It was Jimmy time. What is he doing right now? Well, look what's up. It's Hendrick time. And a great run. But Kyle Larson to win, he was plus 500. He was a top 3 plus 155. Group A 250. The top Chevy, of course, 115. Truex, he was actually a favorite. He was actually the dog against Truex. He was plus 105. Hamlin was minus 130, and Byron was minus 135. So still had a lot of plus numbers. A plus 250 in a group is pretty good. Plus 155 in top 3. Well, that's why we didn't bet him. That was his first Darlington win ever. So that was a good deal for him. And when you go to the top 10, how about some of these names in the top 10? When is the world going to become RFK believers? You've got it out of me.
I am. I took Chris Buescher to win his group this week,
and he did.
He cashed in for me.
Hey, plus 350 for Tyler Reddick on the second place, plus 400 for Chris Buescher. William Byron, the sleeper that we've said kind of disappeared. Here he is when the playoffs happened. There's the Chad Knaus theory. Ross Chastain with a good run to start the playoffs, needed that. Brad Keselowski, a top 10 with his teammate right there. Bubba Wallace, a strong start, needed that. Being where he was on the bubble of playoffs, him there, Chase Elliott.
And how excited do you think Bubba is for this week? He won this race last year, finished 4th here in the spring. If Bubba's got a race circled to help him advance in the playoffs,
it's right there.
It's this week.
Chase Elliott, you got to remember, Chase Elliott is in the owner's playoff. So that was big points for him in the owner's playoff. And then you end up with Blaney and Eric Jones. And how about Eric Jones?
He loves this racetrack. He loves Darlington.
We talked about him. Eric Jones loves Darlington. Eric Jones absolutely does well here. A top 10, which that Legacy Motor Club team has not had a lot of top 10s this year. So he gets it at a place that he always gets it at. So great job for him right there also.
And there's a name that's missing on that list of the top 10 who has been phenomenal all year long. And one of the guys we looked at going in as a potential favorite who had a horrible day, and that was Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah.
He was never in contention at any point during that race, despite he's got a teammate in Denny Hamlin who's out there running as well as he was, and a pseudo teammate in Tyler Reddick, who had a very strong run. And Truex, I don't know, that was surprising to me.
I talked that he wasn't all that great there, but Truex, 18th place, no stage points, really just did nothing all day.
No, he was never a factor.
That surprised me, and I still listen. When we get to the championship odds or the playoff standings right now, sorry. He's still okay because of all those bonus points he got from being the regular season champion, from those sorts of things.
But he dropped from being a regular season champ to 6th in the playoffs now.
But guess what happens when they reset after he makes it to the next round?
He gets the points.
He ends up being number 1 again. So if you look at the playoff standings right now, Bubba Wallace, huge race for him. Great move by Bubba to keep himself basically relevant and in contention. He is only 1 point out right now. Kevin Harvick, 2 points out right now. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 4 points out right now. The only one that's already put himself almost in a must-win situation, of course, is Michael McDowell. He's the one that he's already got himself behind the 8 ball.
And he was kind of a victim of other people's problems a little bit. I mean, he wasn't running strong, but he definitely got in an accident there that was...
it wasn't of his making. I mean, he it sucks because that team has overachieved all year, has worked so hard. Travis Mack and that group has done such a good job, Jeff, of just playing it smart, playing it safe, getting it done, and just the wrong time for them to have that deal.
And unfortunately for Michael McDowell, the next 2 races are probably not racetracks that really sets up that well for him. I mean, Kansas and then the night race at Bristol. If he had a Talladega in there, or if he had a Roval in there, you might say, okay,
there's something.
But I just don't know that I'm expecting Michael McDowell to be able to make up that deficit.
Yeah.
At a place like Kansas and then at Bristol.
You look at those playoff standings. Who is he going to beat to be able to make up that many points?
Well, and he's got to beat the 3 guys that are in front of him that are not even in.
And somebody else. Yeah.
Bump somebody else in.
It's tough. I mean, you look at where it's at. It's Joey Logano, Seabell on the +1 and +3 side of the cut line. McDowell's got to make up 20 points on that and 5 guys. So
and that to me is the harder part. Like I could see, Christopher Bell blows an engine at Kansas. He can pass Christopher Bell, but you said, he's still 15 behind Stenhouse, 17 behind Harvick, and 18 behind Bubba. So
let's the upcoming schedule. What we got right now is Motley. We go from here to the Hollywood Casino 400 out in Kansas. The used to be what we called cookie cutter. Now it's one of those places that everybody loves. Kansas has aged very well to me.
And the new car has really taken well to these 1.5 mile tracks. We see great races at Kansas. We see those at Vegas, Charlotte, Texas, Atlanta.
Definitely plays
like
well for this. Then we go to the Bass Pro Shop night race at Bristol. Then we had that will be a cutoff race, another brilliant cutoff race by NASCAR. Put it at Bristol, best place to do it. Then we get the second round, and the full second round is going to be Texas Motor Speedway. We got Talladega, and then the Roval for a cutoff race. Really, Ben Kennedy has done, and Steve Phelps and all the crew, whoever is doing these schedules, Jeff, they really have done it.
Well, they have, and that second stage there, those wild cards in there going Talladega and the Roval. Texas, I think we can kind of predict who's going to run well at Texas, but I think once you get into Talladega and you get into that road course, everything's up for grabs. But hey, remember last year, these first 3 races, we had 3 non-playoff drivers win the first 3 races. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen because of Larson. And honestly, I don't really foresee that happening now. I mean, Bubba won this race at Kansas a year ago. Like
he's a playoff driver now.
But he's a playoff driver now.
And if you look at the Hollywood Casino 400, this is what is important with the schedule, guys. This is playoff racing now. So the NASCAR, remember, has playoff racing. It's the playoff race 2 of the 3 races. Every round is 3 elimination races. So this is round 2 of 3. It is a 1.5 mile track, just like we used to be at Vegas until everybody's kind of repaved a little bit. Sunday night, 3 p.m., Bubba was your winner last year. So all those that's kind of the skinny of what is happening with all that for Kansas.
Yeah, and Kansas is a track that there's a lot of guys in the playoffs who have really solid records over there too.
You look at their records here, Kansas Speedway, these guys, there are some people, there are a ton of people that have amazing stats here at Kansas. You look, Denny Hamlin has 30 races, 12 top fives. That's almost 50% top five at Kansas Speedway.
And on a mile and a half, that's extraordinary.
Especially if you go through what they used to go through. You know, when the old mile and a half, remember, they were tough to get a hold of. This place, Denny Hamlin has a great look at some of these records though. On Martin Truex Jr. 17 over 50% top 10. Kyle Busch just under 50% top 10. Brad Keselowski just under 50% top 10. Kevin Harvick with all those starts over 50% top 10. And that's some amazing numbers. Then you get down to the Kyle Larsons and the Chase Elliott's, who phenomenal records here. Even Bubba Wallace, 11 races, 3 top 10s and a win.
Well, if you look at this list right here, every active driver that's won at Kansas, Chase Elliott's the only one not in the playoffs.
Well, he's in the
he's in the owners' playoffs.
There you go.
He's not in the drivers' playoffs. But so every car that is won here is in the playoffs. I think that's remarkable. And seeing the balance there, Denny Hamlin 4 wins, Joey and Harvick with 3, Brad and Kyle and Truex with 2. I mean, it's really well balanced.
And you look at recent history. You always do. What have you done for me lately? All of them have done stuff lately. All of them have run. I mean, Bubba Wallace lately, Kyle Larson lately, even Kevin Harvick lately. So, I mean, a lot of guys run really well here. This new car, as you said, has played out extremely well here. So I'm excited to see a good mile and a half race because this is the last mile and a half till we got Texas. There's 3. There's 1 in this round, 1 in the second round, and then, of course, Las Vegas with the South Point 400 in the third round.
No, you're right. I love these mile and a halves with the new car.
Nope, it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, guys, when we come back, we're going to get you to the odds to win the Hollywood Casino 400 and all the great stuff that some of you give you here, not others behind a screen.
This is Gone Racin, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
And welcome back in. Green flag in the air, but we don't have Wyatt waving his green flag anymore. We can kind of see him through the glass over there. New studio blues. We got to get used to TVs are in different places. Me and Jeff we're already telling the people at Circa how to fix everything because
we're rearranging the furniture.
That's right. You know the professionally unprofessional.
After 10 minutes.
That's right. The guys that of course know better than anybody else on VSiN. Of course. I mean that's you got to listen to us, right? I mean isn't that we're professionally unprofessional?
Exactly.
See, it still works. Doesn't matter if we're in the South Point studio or the Circa studio. It's
a studio's a studio,
That's
right?
That's right.
We got microphones, we got chairs, we got our notes, and we got Wyatt and Isaiah behind the glass. But guess what? They can't talk.
Yeah, that's so, guys. It is a little change for the format. Of course, you're used to seeing the third man, the velvety pipes of the voice of the Lady Rebels. Wyatt can't talk now, which I think he's really excited about with how bad the pit crew has been betting this year. I think he's kind of.
But he can't defend himself at all. Not that he has a defense.
I think that was intentional. I think they used to have something back there they could talk and look at. I think they did it intentionally.
Well, I don't know. He has no defense for his picks, so.
Brad Keselowski's #1 fan.
And
he doesn't bet him. If he bets him, he wins a bunch. I've made more money on Brad this year than anybody.
I mean, the race wasn't even over.
Oh, he's talking. He's talking in
our ears.
To
us,
yeah.
but everybody else can't hear him. I mean, he's texting me before the race is over with cuss words about Denny Hamlin last week.
It was funny.
And Denny. Look, the guy had a loose wheel. It happens.
It was funny. All right, let's get into the odds to win the Hollywood Casino 400.
Speaking of Denny Hamlin.
And our favorite right off the bat is the aforementioned Denny Hamlin. Denny is plus 450. Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Larson are both 550. William Byron is 750. Tyler Reddick is 900 with Christopher Bell right there. Bubba Wallace 12-1. Kyle Busch 14-1. There's one I'm looking at. Ross Chastain, Chris Buescher 16-1. Apparently they are still not believers in Chris Buescher winning on every single type of racetrack in our sport now. Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski 20, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott all at 22, Alex Bowman bringing up the end of the first page at 30-1. Motley, there are some names here that I look and go, ooh, I likey.
Well, at first, a few things hit me. Bubba Wallace, who is probably been the most consistent guy over the last couple of races here, who has proven himself to be a pretty good mile and a half racer, is getting double digits. Kyle Busch getting double digits. As you said, not believing in Chris Buescher. His teammate, who has not won a race all year.
Isn't even on this page.
Well,
he is.
But he's 20-1.
Yeah.
And here's a guy that he's hungry to get a win. Mm-hmm. You expect Blaney to run well. And look, I know he's not in the playoffs. 22-1 on Chase Elliott. At some point, aren't they going to hit it one week?
Who have I said I'm going to keep betting on all year long until he gets the win, because he will win this season, and it's Chase Elliott. Oh, and by the way, guess who has the best stats in the last 10 races at Kansas?
Probably Chase Elliott.
There you go. 7 top 10s, 5 top 5s, average finish of 7.9 in the last 10 races with a win. And if you take that to the mile-and-a-half races, extend it out, to all mile-and-a-half races, Chase Elliott is still near the top of the pack. So
I just got to believe there's going to be a week when they figure it out.
Oh, and what did I say about Chad Knaus and Chad Knaus time? This is it.
Well, the only problem now that's working against him there is all the effort really is going into Larson and Byron. I mean, Chad ain't going to spend a whole lot of time over with the 9 or the 48 right now.
He's still in the owner's playoff.
He still is. Okay, but we all know that getting Larson or Byron across the finish line first at Phoenix in the last race of the year is the most important thing to Hendrick Motorsports.
You see what I'm doing with my pen right here on this page?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think I found my Chase Elliott bet for the day. I'm just saying.
Well, good. I'm glad I could bring that to your attention.
Let's get to the second page of our stats here. And on the second page of the odds to win, you kick off with Ty Gibbs at 35-1. Daniel Suarez is at 80-1. Then you got the long odds. Ricky Stenhouse, Eric Jones, 150. Michael McDowell is there at 200. You end up with Austin Dillon, 200. Chase Briscoe, 250. Carson Hocevar, 250. Eric Almirola, AJ Allmendinger, 200s. Cindric in the Penske car, 300. Then the super long guys.
This might be the biggest numbers on page 2 of
and it's a mile and a half
that I can ever remember. And Suarez 80-1. Like, I would expect Suarez to be a guy who runs solid. I don't know if he's going to go win, but here's what I do know: if Daniel Suarez is sitting here at 80-1 to win, we haven't gotten to the top 3s yet. But
And I mean, I'm looking at this. Daniel Suarez, just mile and a half races, which this is a standard mile and a half race. Daniel Suarez finished second at Atlanta, which now isn't really but has a couple top 5s here in the mile and a half, the last 10 races. And then look at Ross Chastain and then transfer it to Daniel. That's a huge number when we go and get into the top 3s.
No, you're right. And I mean, it's just seeing some of these big numbers out there. It's just kind of surprising. Even a guy like Eric Almirola being 250-1.
That's a big number.
I don't think Almirola is going to win, but I just think it's a big number.
But he runs well. They still run well.
Correct.
And the Fords have been running. The Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski have proved the Fords are running better. So I'm liking both of those. Let's get to the odds to the top 3, though, Mr. Motley, since we think that there might be some fun numbers in those. And we're going to kick off with Denny Hamlin, of course, your favorite at 130. Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Larson, both 160s. William Byron, 200. Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell. That's a nice return for a top 3 at 250. Bubba Wallace, last year's winner, by the way, Bubba Wallace at 350. Kyle Busch, 400. Ross Chastain, Chris Buescher, 450. Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, 5. Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott at 600. And Alex Bowman at 800. The Alex Bowman one, he's disappeared again. But this is one of his better places, man. The mile and a half where Alex Bowman has really, really been good as of late. 6 top 10s in 9 races here. Average finish of 8.3.
Well, and he's been like you said, he's been a good mile and a half racer. He actually, he has a win at Las Vegas, which is a very similar track to Kansas. Maybe most comparable track we've got out there to Kansas. I'm going back to kind of what we were talking about with the odds to win, though. You gonna give me a plus 450 on Chris Buescher? I mean, I believe in Chris Buescher. Do you believe in Chris Buescher?
I'm a believer. That deal, Chris Buescher and RFK and even Brad Keselowski. These are guys that look. I will be the first to say that Jack Roush has not been relevant. The race team. And I'm sorry, I love Mr. Roush. He's a great man, been so nice to me in my life. But that race team has not been a relevant part of the conversation in, what, Jeff, a decade?
It's been a while.
And
I mean, it's not like the days of Mark Martin, Jeff Burton, Kurt Busch, Matt Kenseth, Carl Edwards, Greg Biffle. Those days are gone.
Those days have been long gone for a long time. And you look at what Brad Keselowski has done in, 18 months?
It's pretty phenomenal. But, he has brought a modern way of thinking to that team. And clearly they have released a lot of the power to Brad to steer that thing in the right direction.
When we talk about what Brad's done, goosebumps pop up because Brad Keselowski has absolutely done an amazing job. I cannot praise Brad Keselowski enough. There is no such thing as enough praise for Brad Keselowski.
And I think to do it while driving at a high level is very difficult as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I just, while doing it, while in the car, absolutely is something that just...
And I think when it's your race team, I'll give you an example. I think for Denny to own a team that he doesn't drive for is actually easier than Brad owning a team that he does drive for. I think that is difficult. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
Disney doesn't drive for his. He's got Reddick. He's got Bubba.
Yeah.
I think it's easier to
drive for his own team.
To take that approach to look at it from the other side.
Yeah.
But when you're on the inside of it, I think that's harder.
It is.
I mean, you're the boss, but you're out there in the race car. I just think there's a difficulty about
it's amazing
being
what
your team.
What he's doing. All right, let's get to the second page because there's some good numbers here. Ty Gibbs 10-1. I like that one a little bit. The kid's been running really well. Daniel Suarez, there he is again, 16-1. Ricky Stenhouse, who's a playoff driver, 40-1 with Eric George, 40-1. Michael McDowell, Austin Dillon, 50-1. Another playoff driver. Chase Briscoe, Eric Almirola, AJ Dinger, Carson Osvar at 60s. The rest down there. But the Ty Gibbs, the Daniel Suarez, even the Austin Dillon, Kyle Busch is so low on the board at his number with Austin being so high. I think that's a 400 to a 50-1 for a top three. That organization is better with Kyle Busch. And I think that Austin Dillon, who finished 10th here, by the way, earlier this season, is something to look at.
Well, something seems to be, to me, though, just seems to be amiss between the 8 car and the 3 car.
No, if you look at how Austin's run, he's run well. But he doesn't get the finishes. He's had mistakes.
But a lot of those have been his own mistakes.
No, he's run into some things. Some of his own.
It's been a little bit of a combination of both. I agree. But I think the two guys that are at the top of the board right there, Ty Gibbs, Daniel Suarez, I mean, getting double digits on either one of those guys. But Ty's also, it's something about these Gibbs cars. Hamlin, there always seems to be something happens.
Fast.
Christopher Bell, he's fast, but something always seems to go wrong. Ty Gibbs has been
good. They make their own problems.
But that's my point. Yeah. I don't know what it is. Truex is the only one that doesn't have self-inflicted problems. They just didn't run well last week.
Ty Gibbs, to me, is the one that... So, you look at Ty Gibbs here, he doesn't have good finishes in his 2 races at Kansas. But he has good runs. Got third-place stage points, then an accident.
That's the story of his season.
And another good run at the second at Kansas race last year when he filled in, and then an accident. If he doesn't get in the accident, I think Ty Gibbs could be an easy top 10.
Yeah, I just think that's been the story of his season, and he's snake bit. And you're maybe right. There's going to be that week where it all finally comes together for Ty Gibbs. And yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up in victory lane before the season's over.
I wouldn't either. He's run good enough. All right, we got a lot of good head-to-heads this week, and I've been killing the head-to-heads, so I got to focus a little more on those because I got to keep my lead. Oh, that's not tough over to Wyatt. When we get back, head-to-heads, head-to-heads in the groups when we return.
This is Gone Racing, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
Want to rewatch any part of today's show or any past show for that matter? Check out the Gone Racin podcast. It's free and available now at VSiN.com/podcast or wherever you get your podcast. We give you all the latest news, odds, and everything you need to know to head straight to the betting counter before each and every NASCAR Cup race. While you're there, catch up on every VSiN show as well. VSiN.com/podcasts.
You realize our professionally unprofessional has rubbed off on our producer because clearly when he's trying to make jokes in our ear, the public can't hear while we're getting ready to.
But see, I think that's just the funny part. He's, it's just kind of fun.
It is.
It's fun.
But that's what I mean. It makes him professionally unprofessional.
I'll accept it. Well, no, hey, I've been on some professional shows where it's much worse from the back of the house talking to the guys in front of the camera where they're really giving him a hard time. So I will say it's okay. It's all right. It's all right, Wyatt. I still love you. Pit crew. Only because what am I, 80? Am I 80 units ahead of them? 80?
80 what?
Units ahead of them in the Gone Racin?
It's a lot.
Something like that? 80 units? Oh, that's right. He told me I had to put
You could buy a small island with the difference that you got.
Probably. It's over here somewhere. There it is. Hey, there. See? Professionally unprofessional. I got to put both of those in so I can really hear everybody right. Okay, let's get to... I love us. We have more. Nobody has more fun than us. I promise you that.
We should have wireless ones, don't you think?
Yeah. Listen. Can we mess up with wired ones? Can you imagine what we'd look like with wireless?
Yeah, that's true.
Let's get to the head-to-head battles. And the head-to-heads right now, there's a bunch of fun little numbers here. And I start off. You got Martin Truex is a plus 105 to Denny Hamlin. Not as excited. There's a lot of Denny Hamlin don't line going on here. But I look around and I go...
It's not big. It's not
No,
big.
it's not big. But I look around and I go, hold on. Kyle Busch, 125 to Tyler Reddick. Now, Tyler Reddick loves this place. Let's start with that. Hard to bet against Tyler Reddick in the mile and a half. Hard to bet against Tyler Reddick, with how well he's done. But Kyle Busch has been strong. Maybe not as strong lately, but you're getting 125 in a head-to-head where Tyler Reddick here only has an average finish of 18.8. This has not been a mile and a half that has been his strong suit. Finished 9th in the race earlier this year, 39th with a crash before that, 30th in the race before that, 22nd. So I like that 125 Kyle Busch in a head-to-head number.
I hate to say this. I look at the head-to-heads, and there's nothing that I see out there that I say, oh, man, I love that. Now,
there's no lock.
Right. Now, there's one I like, and it's teammates. Joey Logano getting a plus line at 105 against Ryan Blaney's minus 125. Joey's got, now granted, he's got a win. I know he's got a win here when he took out Matt Kenseth, but Joey's got multiple wins here at Kansas. Mm-hmm. Joey has been very comfortable in this track. And I know you have your theory of the Fords don't run well. Well, guess there's two Fords going head to head.
Nope.
So if I'm looking at a plus line, I'm looking at Joey Logano over Ryan Blaney, probably more than anything else I see as far as the head to heads.
The only difference is that Ryan Blaney in the last 10 mile and a half races, he won at Charlotte this year. So, that's why they give Ryan Blaney the big nod is the head-to-head battles. Ryan Blaney is the best in the last 10 mile and a half races. I get it, but I do like that. I also, though, don't dislike Kyle Busch on a head-to-head with Bubba Wallace.
Yeah, and I think my struggles there right now with Kyle Busch is that they have not been consistent over the last few months of the season. And I think we know what confidence level Bubba's taken into Kansas. Now, I sometimes think there's no driver out there who gets more down on himself sometimes than Bubba does.
When Bubba, he's quicksand. When he goes down fast.
But I think Bubba probably can't get to Kansas soon enough. I mean, it wouldn't have surprised me if Bubba had just gotten on the plane last week at Darlington and flew straight to Kansas. Because I think he's going to walk into that garage with his head up pretty high this weekend.
So do I. But if you look at, you have NASCAR champion Kyle Busch as a plus line against Bubba Wallace. I struggle to say that he should be a plus 105 versus Bubba Wallace. I get all the outlying factors, but you still look at Kyle Busch versus Bubba Wallace on a head-to-head, and Kyle Busch is the dog. I like that.
All right.
Well, let's get to our group matchups, and we kick off with Group A. And Group A is always the tough one, but a big return here for one guy. You got Denny Hamlin, your favorite, at 235, Martin Truex Jr., 270, Kyle Larson, 270, and William Byron, 300.
Boy, to me, this one is tough. The 300 is a huge number on William Byron. We know he's going to run well. And I got to ask myself, does Truex finally get it going here? I mean, it hasn't been like a months-long slump, but the last few weeks, it's been a little bit of a slump for Truex. And that's a plus 270 number on the guy who's really been the hottest guy pretty much on the circuit until Chris Buescher came along the last month.
Look, Denny's hot. Let's Denny, even though what he did, he is still, of course,
figurative and literal.
But what I look at is William Byron is your second best point getter in the last 10 mile and a half races, and he is great here at Kansas. Take Atlanta out. I don't count Atlanta as the mile and a half. You've got a second place at Charlotte, a third place at this race at Kansas. Go to last year, he won the Vegas race, William Byron, that is. William Byron, 3rd, 6th, 9th, 8th in all these Kansas races. You want to find enticement, you've got me enticed. I get he's up against some tough competition.
But he's tough competition, too.
He's tough competition, too.
I like that. The plus 300 number.
That's where it's better than his number for a top 3, so I like that one.
No, I'm with you there. Definitely like William Byron in that group for the value that's up there. There's a part of me that says, man, this might be the week to take a flyer on Truex.
It could be.
But that's just a hunch thing. It's not like
hottest guy in the sport 3 weeks ago. We were giving him the championship trophy a couple weeks ago.
Exactly. And I just think this is the kind of racetrack that suits his driving style, and I don't know.
It does. I mean, we can't disagree that it doesn't. But that plus 300. Remember, we always talk about what's the book do? Why do they give you this spread? They try to entice you somewhere. They want more action on Byron. I might give him that action.
I'm with you.
All right, Group B leads off with Christopher Bell as your favorite at 225, co-favorite there with Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain 320, and Kyle Busch 325. Wow.
Now you go back to huge value, but my problem with this group here is
them two Toyotas at the top.
Those two Toyotas at the top, I think, there's a reason they were the plus 225 and they're the favorite. And honestly, I would not be shocked if either one of them actually went out and won this race.
Christopher Bell, 7 races here, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s. He's got 8 fifth, third, and then this year 36th, where he actually had a crashed out like on lap one, first guy out of the race.
Yeah, something happened there.
Yeah, first guy out of the race.
Yeah.
Him and Kyle Busch got into each other, I think is what it was, and they both had bad days. But Christopher Bell, that's there's a reason, but man, that Kyle Busch number keeps screaming at me.
It's a big number. I just think it's a big chore to try to win that group. If Bell or Reddick don't have a problem, which they're saying Bell not having a problem or Reddick not having a problem, because most of their issues all year long have been self-inflicted.
Have been pit crew or themselves.
But we saw Tyler Reddick have a clean race last week where he had nothing self-inflicted, and where'd he end up? Second.
Yeah.
Bell had a good car last week, but guess what he had? Self-inflicted problems.
All right. Well, Group C, Group C is going to be, kicks off with Bubba Wallace at plus 240, Brad Keselowski at 265, Chris Buescher at 285, and Kevin Harvick 285. Well, you got so here's a conundrum for Wyatt and the pit crew. You got Brad and Chris in the same group, and you got Chris Buescher in Group C, which right now, guys, I almost would give him one of the hottest drivers in the sport title. If you look at how he's been running, and he's the co-dog in this one at plus 285.
Look, I've believed in Chris Buescher pretty much all year.
But we believed in him for years.
Yes, we have.
Chris Buescher has been a recurring. I don't want to call it a joke. It's not a joke. Chris Buescher has been cashed more tickets on this show than any driver in our show's history.
Yeah, and I'm going to take him in this group, but I will tell you that it is Bubba is a favorite for a reason. So I think this one here is. I like Buescher because I'm believing in Buescher, but boy, Bubba in this group's tough, and I don't know. By the way, speaking of Harvick, tough break for him last week. Had a really, really good car, and I don't really know how you avoid that penalty. So,
I didn't. We've talked why he didn't drive through. A couple different things.
His crew chief made an interesting point though. So
and that's why I texted you during the time that said it's just tail end. He's going to be there either way, but there's other things. But it sucks for him. Now I look at him at Kansas. Last 10 mile and a half, Kevin Harvick. I got to go way down to find Kevin Harvick for the last 10 mile and a half, all the way down to 19th best point getter. 2 top 10s last 10 mile and a half.
Have not been his forte lately. To me, he's out of the equation. This is a 3-person group to me.
All right. Let's get into Group D, and Group D leads off with our favorite Ryan Blaney at 240, Chase Elliott 255, Joey Logano 255, and my muchachito Daniel Suarez at plus 335. That's a tough one because I like that Chase Elliott, man. The Hendrick cars. I already got Chase Elliott circled on a couple pages. Chase Elliott it's very difficult for me not to look at that and go, man, Chase Elliott 255.
No, I'm in the Chase Elliott camp with you there too. I know that we've got a couple of playoff guys there in Blaney and Logano, but I mean, look, Chase wants to win. I know he wants to win, and he's going to run well. And I just think, the Fords have struggled a bit. So I'm in your camp on the Chase Elliott right here.
Let's not talk about the Ford struggling. Brad Keselowski Ford and Chris Buescher Ford have not been struggling.
It's the Penske Fords
and the Stewart-Haas Fords have.
Yeah.
He's up against the 2 Penske Fords that have struggled. I mean, Ryan Blaney did win Charlotte, but struggled. And Daniel Suarez, who's kind of persona non grata right now, trying to find his way over there. That's a big number.
I like Elliott.
All right, when we come back, finish up the groups, give you our prop bets and our picks, and the last segment in Gone Racin'.
This is Gone Racing, VSiN's premier NASCAR betting podcast. Here are your hosts, former NASCAR driver Brendan Gaughan and Las Vegas Motor Speedway's Jeff Motley.
White flag, literally, figuratively in the air right now. Last segment, Gone Racing, our new digs at the Circa Sports studio right here. And Mr. Motley, we got Group E is where we're kicking off our last segment with. And let's get into it with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., playoff driver Ricky Stenhouse Jr., is your favorite at 230, with Michael McDowell, playoff driver, at 255, Eric Almirola 290, and AJ Allmendinger at 300.
I hate this group.
Okay. Motley and I always have a group that we just kind of look at and go, yeah, there's nothing for us there. This is absolutely the group that I'm like, I got nothing for you, man.
I am totally with you. I'm spending very little. I mean, look, if you want to do something, bet the Allmendinger for plus 300 because or 290 on Almirola. You might as well go for the guys with the best odds here.
I can't even give you stats to separate them. They're all right there in a blanket.
Yep, not touching this one.
Maybe Dinger, mile and a half, 3 top 10s last 7 races. That's a stat for him. But those were a while back. He got his top 10. Oh, he finished. No, that Atlanta don't count. So I don't know.
We'll move on.
Okay. Let's get into Group F. And Group F is always one of my favorite groups anyway, because we love picking Group F bets. You got Austin Cindric is your favorite at 235. Chase Briscoe and Ryan Preece 275. Harrison Burton 285. You and I last week.
We need to pat ourselves on the back a little bit. We said there was a lock pick.
I kind of think this. Here's my only problem. Right now there's a new man that has the toughest man in NASCAR title.
Ryan Preece with his swollen up eyes.
He's the man, baby.
Yeah.
What do I always tell you?
Ricky Rudd look.
What do I always tell you? Flipping the race card doesn't hurt. It just gives you a lot more bruises. Ryan Preece is the definition of a lot more bruises. Bad to the bone. Ryan, I love you. You are you're one of the only guys I will call a throwback right now. Most of the other guys would be at home crying, trying to keep cucumbers on their eyes. And Ryan was like, I'm here. I'm showing everybody. So I almost want to bet Ryan Preece just because I love Ryan Preece right now. But I think this, to me, is the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, last week we thought Briscoe was a lock. Now, I will give Carson Hocevar credit. He had a heck of a run last week.
Made us nervous.
Only finished, I think, a couple spots behind Briscoe. It was very close. But I look at this right here, and I do think Briscoe's the cream here. I mean, he's the guy. So, and he's plus 275. Cindric is the favorite here, and Cindric hasn't done anything all year.
Yeah, no. So I'm right there with Chase Briscoe, and I think I'm right, just like we used to ride Chris Buescher in Group F. It's now Chase Briscoe is the guy that I'm kind of hitching my wagon to.
And Briscoe we trust.
Briscoe we trust. All right. Well, we do have our prop bets this week, and how about this? This might be the first time all season long, or first time in a long time that I can remember. The favorite is not Chevrolet.
Yeah, that is. But I think that's because who won the last race? Denny Hamlin.
Mm-hmm.
Who won the race before that? Bubba Wallace. And we know that Reddick's going to run well here. And I think we expect Truex to run well here. And we expect Bell to run well here. So even though we don't have as many Toyotas, the quality of the Toyotas, I honestly think Chevy is looking at, it's either Byron or Larson or nobody.
And so I'm looking at that going, Chevy's not the favorite. I'm getting 150 on Chevy with the William Byrons, the Kyle Larsons, the Chase Elliott's, the
Kyle Busch.
the Kyle Busch. I got enough there that I'm saying 150. You've now put it back in my ballpark. Ford, once again though, Chris Buescher, man.
Chris Buescher and Keselowski make that plus 450 enticing.
Yes, they
certainly
do.
does.
And it's 450. It's not 350 this week, not 325. It's a 450 number. It almost makes me want to bet it.
I can understand that. I'm probably going to stay away from the manufacturer prop this week because I'm kind of feeling a Toyota win here. But plus 110, I just don't know if the value's there.
All right, first round of the playoffs, so we got to get you some playoff odds right now. And our playoff odds, remember we talked, this is the way you're supposed to hedge your bet all season long, guys. If you didn't get on in time, you missed a lot of boats. But there are still some pretty big boats out here. And right now, the first one that jumps off this page to me is still Tyler Reddick, 18-1. Larson down to 350. Byron down to 450. Truex up to 500. But right now, you go Tyler Reddick at 18-1. That is just screaming my name at Tyler Reddick right now.
Reddick 18-1. Look who else has taken a major move toward his odds getting worse or getting better, depending on which way you look at it, is Chris Buescher. He's gone from 18-1 to 12-1, but he's still getting double digits.
And I think that number is going to keep getting smaller because Chris Buescher is right now showing that he can absolutely make his way through this playoff.
Well, and I think here's the key. So I look at Larson, look at Byron, maybe Truex, Hamlin. I mean, certainly those four guys are probably the four right now that if you'd say they're the four that should make it to Phoenix, should get through. But if one of them doesn't, somebody else has to get there. And I don't think it's going to be Kyle Busch. So if that's the case, somebody that's in double digits will end up at Phoenix.
No, I'm with you. And Chris Buescher right now is my favorite for it. I mean, even Denny Hamlin 600 is not a bad number. I mean, that's still a pretty good number.
Here's the deal. Unless something horrible happens in the next two races, Buescher's through to the next round. and how good has Buescher been on super speedways and on road courses?
So you got another great round for him.
And guess what? He's been stockpiling these bonus points with all those wins. Mm-hmm. He gets a few more bonus points. That's even going to make it a little easier to make it into that Final Four.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about last week because me and Jeff want to talk about last week. Right now, Isaiah and Wyatt and the whole pit crew in our ears are trying to talk over us right now to break our concentration.
That's why they're not on camera this week, because they're ashamed.
Yes.
Shame. Isn't that what they say when you go to the penalty box in the hockey game? Shame. Yeah.
Well, so Motley, I was not the big winner of the week. You were. And that big win put you back by 1 point to the positive. 1 point.
I can buy a beer, but not in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
maybe in Darlington, South Carolina.
I'm buying lots of beers, baby. I got the big lead right now. I am 45. I got six units last week. I won the Buescher bet. I won the Briscoe bet, and the Busch over Bell. The pit crew did get a win. Wallace won Group D, so they only had a very small minus number.
But couldn't even gain ground because I also had Bubba in his group. I, with you, had Briscoe, and I was believing in Buescher.
Believe in Buescher.
Believe in Buescher.
I like that. Believe in Buescher.
It is believe in Buescher and Briscoe now.
Yeah.
It's all about the B's.
Group F we used to call it the Ron Flatter group, but now it's Group F is the Believe in Buescher and Briscoe. But I don't think we're going to see Buescher anytime soon.
And Buescher has emerged as a star, and Ron Flatter's in the Witness Protection Program.
Well, it's horse race season's over, so that was kind of his main gig. All right, well, with that, we're going to get to our picks, and of course, we kick off from worst to first here. And as we know, the perennial doormat this year has been our friends in the pit crew. And so we're going to kick off the pit crew, which I hope they don't jinx us because they've picked a couple picks that we like. They're going to start. They're believing in Buescher. Chris Buescher to finish top 3 at 450. Ross Chastain to win Group B at 320. Chris Buescher to win Group C at 285. Joey Logano to win Group D. And they're joining the bandwagon with Chase Briscoe in Group F.
Well, that pretty much does Group F in.
Yeah, I think we just did the kiss of death.
We just did the kiss of death because I think we've gotten one pick all year right that we all three took.
I might have to switch to Cindric or something real quick.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking I should change that too. Okay.
Do I go next? Oh, no, sorry, no.
You haven't gone next since like March. So I'm going to go one head-to-head, which I talked about a lot when we were at head-to-heads. I'm going to go Joey Logano over his teammate Ryan Blaney, plus 105. The rest of mine will be in groups. I'm going to take that plus 300 on William Byron in Group A. It's just too enticing for me not to. Going with the pit crew there with Chris Buescher in Group C, believing in Buescher. I'm going Group D. I'm going to go head-to-head with the pit crew here. I'm going Chase Elliott. Mm-hmm. I like Elliott there. And then, I'm sticking by my guns on Chase Briscoe in Group F.
All right, I can't dislike most of those, but I am going to have to do, what have I said the last, 3 months? I'm making a bet every week on Chase Elliott, and I'm sticking with it. I scratched out the circle to win, though. I'm going to go top 3 because plus 600 on a top 3 on Chase Elliott is still way too much return for me. And then I'm going to go to 2 head-to-heads. I like William Byron plus 115 to Denny Hamlin. Hamlin, perennial making mistakes right now, and Byron's just kind of smooth sailing. Kyle Busch at plus 125. In the head-to-head versus Tyler Reddick. Something tells me about Kyle Busch. Then the kiss of death. I am taking Chase Briscoe in Group F. I'm thinking maybe I just switch that to maybe Priest just for the toughness factor, just to get off him so we don't jinx him. Should I do that? Should I change it?
Well, what do you want to do?
I don't know. How much time I got?
Whatever I write down, it's going to stay.
Is that final?
I've written it down once, but I can cross it out one time.
No, I'm believing in Briscoe.
Believe in Briscoe. Okay.
And then Chevy as the winning manufacturer at plus 150. There's too many Chevys out there, and they're not the favorite. I get a little bit of return there. So get me a couple of them head-to-heads and the cheapies, and I'm looking good.
All right. Well, heck, I'm never going to argue with your picks the way you're doing this year. So, I mean, and we even found out before the show that we're trending.
Yeah, apparently
we're trending on VSiN for how successful we've been with our picks.
That's right. I think that would not be the pit crew. That would be the hosts. But,
I mean, does that put us up there with like the Lombardis and the Palms and the Humans and?
Hey, Mike. If Mike, I know Mike was in here just before us. If you need some advice, I'm right here, Mike. I'm in the circle now with you, so you can come to me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But thank you very much to our new digs, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week when we
big TVs behind us.
Big boards behind us. Yeah. But we'll be back next week with Bristol to break down this one. Go to Bristol, and thanks for joining us in the Circus Studios, guys. We appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next week from our new digs. They're fancy digs here too. Appreciate it.